We want to thank everybody for being here tonight, for all your comments, your feedback, over the last few months, whether that's through our website or through emails or phone calls, or for coming to these meetings. We know, everybody's busy, but we really appreciate you participating in this process and being patient with us as we, work through our plans and hopefully deliver something that everybody in this community can be proud of and kind of work through our shared goal of restoring this property to something that everybody can enjoy and will be a great experience for the Cotton Fields community. A quick housekeeping item, as you can see, there's a camera here. We'll be recording this presentation and we'll be posting it on our website. So for anybody who's not able to be here tonight or attend our meeting a couple weeks ago, this can be something that can be viewed at a later time and hopefully answer any questions that people have. We know it's a lot to take an hour or two out of your night to come join us. We know we've still got a lot of work to do. I think this is meant to be an ongoing conversation. I don't want anybody to think this is sort of our final plan that we're bringing to you tonight. This is something we wanted to get back in front of you and show you a plan that I think we're really excited about, that incorporates a lot of the feedback we received from you. But there's be more meetings and plenty of more time for input. But again, grateful that you're here tonight. So I apologize to anybody who was here a couple weeks ago. This will be a lot of the same information we covered, but we're grateful that you're here. And if you weren't able to make it a couple weeks ago, thanks for joining us. Hopefully you'll be excited by what you see tonight. Tonight we're going to talk about kind of how we got to where we are today, and not just kind of over the last 10 years, but over the last few months, how our plan for the property has evolved to incorporate the feedback we've received from the community. In addition to these meetings and the emails and the phone calls and the website comments we've received, we kind of wanted to formalize some of the feedback we've received. And so about a month ago or 6 weeks ago, we distributed a survey. And thank you to everybody who participated in that survey. It was very helpful in informing us about what this community really wants to see here. In addition to golf, I think we all have heard you loud and clear that golf is an important component of this community and any development that happens going forward. So we'll kind of walk through the results of that survey and discuss how those results informed our revised development plan. And then we have Forrest Richardson here as our golf course architect. And Forrest is going to walk through initially some of the feasibility and challenges that would be associated with restoring the golf course to the Southern Ridge or the Bougainvillea or wherever the golf course, as it was previously constituted, exists in your memory. But he can talk about some of the kind of financial challenges and some of the, perhaps more importantly, some of the operational sustainability challenges that a golf course designed as it was presents kind of on an ongoing basis or a go-forward basis. But then Forrest is going to discuss our new golf course plan, which is something we're very excited about. I think it's a great concept, and hopefully you will share our enthusiasm for it. And you can talk about not only the golf course itself, but what that new plan means for this clubhouse and the related amenities, what it means for kind of the entryway, what it means for the overall aesthetics of this community. And then we'll discuss our commitments to you as we move forward through this process, and that as we look to amend the REMA to accommodate this redevelopment, and what the experience of a new golf course would mean for the existing residents. And then lastly, we'll show you some kind of conceptual images of what residents would look like in new development, kind of what some of those concepts are and how those would integrate with the existing Cotton Fields community. So from our team, we have the new golf course owner is Levine 140. We have Alan Robinson here in the back. We have the team from Norris Design. Norris is a land use planning firm. They have a lot of experience with this type of project, with master plans, mixed use developments, and even golf courses. They bring a lot of experience to bear for this project. As I mentioned, we have Forrest Richardson of Richardson Daner Golf Course Architects. Forrest is a very well-respected, highly regarded golf course architect with experience not just in Arizona, but across the country. And as I've just learned, internationally, he's currently working on a project in India. And then Withey Morris Baugh, my name is Alex Hayes. My colleague Adam Baugh from Withey Morris Baugh, we're a land use entitlement firm. And then we have, shown on this team are a number of other consultants, and many of these are related to golf course design and maintenance. So a bit about the history and kind of how we got here today. The current property owner, Levine 140, acquired this property in kind of spring of last year, around this time, 2022. Now, I know the communities, or the residents of this community, have a bit of a fraught history with the owners of this golf course property, and we understand that there's been a lot of trust lost due to the actions of those previous owners, and it allowed the property to kind of devolve into the condition that it existed in when this new owner acquired the property. And hopefully you guys have all seen that this new owner, Levine 140, is committed to being a good neighbor and a partner, and they've expended a lot of time and resources and effort to address a lot of the concerns with the condition of the property and some of the remediation that was required, whether it was landscaping or the lakes. And so hopefully, if you've had issues and you've sent them kind of our way, hopefully you've seen those be resolved. If not, please get in touch with us, and we can we'll do our best to resolve those issues. And again, I know we have a lot of work to do to earn your trust, but hopefully, we appreciate your patience, and hopefully we can continue to do so. We first came to this community with a neighborhood meeting in January of this year, and in that plan, we brought forward a development plan that we were excited about. And if any of you were here, I think you know how that went. We were quickly disabused of that notion that our concept for this property was a good one. That concept included a number of different amenities: pickleball courts, tennis courts, basketball courts, and a variety of different options, walking paths, and we genuinely thought that was a good plan. But we learned very quickly that is not what this community wanted, that golf is very important for this community. So you sent us back to the drawing board, and that's where we went. We had a number of meetings, small and large, with this community. We heard your feedback, we read your comments, again, that we received through the website. We are receiving those, and through your emails and phone calls. And through this process, I think we've really heard that feedback, and I think incorporated into the plan we'll share today. And hopefully you'll see that a lot of progress has been made towards a proposal that we can all be excited about. As I mentioned, we sent out that survey about 6 weeks ago, and we learned a lot more through that to kind of formalize some of the comments that we received. It kind of helps to see that consolidated in one place to really get an understanding of what the community truly wants. And again, we'll walk through that shortly to show you what your neighbors have to say. And then lastly, it brings us kind of to now, April, May. We have a new plan that we're excited to share. And again, this is an ongoing process, so we'll look forward to continued conversations about this. I think it's impossible to make everybody happy. That's just an unattainable goal. But the best we can do is try to make the most amount of people happy with the proposal that we bring forward, and ultimately to elevate the property values and the experience that the residents of this community have in their community and with this new proposed plan. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to Rachel, and she can discuss the results of the survey.
Hi all, my name is Rachel. I am a planner with Norris Design, and we're assisting planning out the future possible residential and assisting Forrest with the golf course, and also working on the survey with Levine 140. And so a couple weeks ago we sent out that survey that Alex was referring to, and I think to date we've received about 85 to 90 survey responses. It would be great to receive more, but we have received a lot of really consistent feedback from the neighbors overall. So one of the primary questions that we asked in the survey was we really wanted to know what were the residents' priorities. What do you guys want to see in the future? What do you guys envision for your community? And these were the top 5 items that consistently the survey results showed that were really important. So 86% found that the golf course was very important to them. 84% found that security, including the gates and fencing surrounding the property, was really important. Clubhouse amenities were very important, and this could be anything from like a restaurant or just sort of like activating this space here that we're in now. Open lawn areas, 51% found were very important, and then improved entry monumentation sign. This was another, these were the top 5 that everybody found to be consistently important to, you know, revitalizing this community and the golf course. There were a couple other items on that survey that we wanted to get some feedback from, and all of which we included in our original plan that Alex was referring to that didn't, that the community didn't love so much. So, and this included walking trails, playground areas, amenities such as sports courts, picnic areas, fitness centers, dog parks, and a community pool. So all of these items here, we hear you that these are no longer important to you guys, and we're really focused in on golf now. A couple additional findings that we looked at as well as we saw that 69% indicated that golf was really important to be a part of any plan because it's a huge factor in your home values, as we all know. 39% are generally against plans to add more homes, but we're willing to listen and to see how it accommodates the greater good. The majority found that it was important to be, there would be no increase in the HOA fees to fund the restoration of the golf course, and then 30% are in support of having new homes joining the existing HOA in order to share the cost of the Cotton Fields community. And then another 18% were open to paying reasonable fees for access to the clubhouse amenities. All right, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Forrest.
Well, hello everybody. My name is Forrest Richardson. A few of you I recognize from some previous meetings. I am a golf course architect. I'll just briefly introduce myself. I pretty much grew up here in the Valley from the mid-1960s, and I've been practicing course design for about almost 40 years. Makes me seem old. My mentor was Arthur Jack Snyder, who is no longer with us, but he came from Oakmont, Pennsylvania, where, as he would say, that he was at the real Oakmont, and he was superintendent there 1952 and 53, and then the Snyders moved to Pine Top, of all places, and then eventually the Valley. So my world coming into golf course design was through a gentleman who was very well known throughout Arizona, California, the West, Hawaii. Jack at one time had 6 projects in Hawaii, and I'm trying to beat him on that, but so far it's a little tough. As you saw up here, we have only been working on this property for 3 months, so we've accomplished an awful lot. When we got the call from Levine 140, it was because of the feedback from the neighborhood, and I will tell you that my partner Jeff Danner and I were involved in almost 30 similar projects throughout the country, from Hawaii all the way back to Memphis, Tennessee, where for one reason or another a golf course has fallen by the wayside and is no longer either open or in danger maybe of continuing being open. And we're coming in and with our expertise, working with land planners like Norris, we're figuring out ways to put the golf back and to keep everyone, as Alex said, as happy as possible. That's our goal. My specific goal is giving you a golf course, and I'm going to go through a little bit of our process. I don't want to bore you. Later on we can take questions, but I want to cover sort of how we got to the plan that you see in the back of the room. This was just from a few weeks ago. I fly a lot. My second home is American Airlines, and I happened to snap this picture as I was coming into Phoenix. So that's your community, and the golf course, you all know, Very sad that, here about 6-7 years ago, it looked good, and it looked even better maybe a decade or more ago, but today it's not what we want to see. And these are just some snapshots that maybe if you live on the west side, you get to see some of these views, but if you live in the middle of the property or the east side, maybe you don't. So this is kind of this, it all looks kind of the same, basically, whether you're on the east or the west. So we have an asset that's in bad shape. One of the questions that came up was, well, why don't we just rebuild what's here? And that came up about 5 or 6 years ago with your HOA. They were on the phone to us for the good part of a year because I believe that there was some ideas that the HOA might undertake that work. And 6 years ago, the replacement cost was maybe just shy of 10 million, but the current replacement cost, if we were to replace it, is actually north of 12 million, and that doesn't include the building, it doesn't include some of the site work that's required. And as you know, the driving range was sold off, so that's just the 18 holes and the practice green that's out here. So we did a detailed analysis of that just to kind of point us in the direction of what could be a realistic number to put into a golf course. What would it look like? This was sort of a baseline of at least being able to answer the question on the existing golf course. So the full cost breakdown, when you add in all the contingencies and everything, is now, because of a lot of things we're going through right now, like supply chain, fuel costs, labor, which is hard to get. Our guest worker program is not as robust as it was 5, 6, 7 years ago, so we have to pay a lot more for labor in golf course construction, and we're north now of 15 million, which is not really a sustainable number. And so the reality is that we went to work looking at, well, what else could we do? So I'm going to go through very quickly some of the considerations and our thought process. One of the things that came up right away was that all neighbors that currently back up to the golf course need to have golf in the future. That seemed like a baseline for us, a premise that we went with. We want to make sure that the new golf is a quality product and that it's going to be sustainable, that we're not going to be in this situation in the future. So it has to be marketable, it has to be desirable, and people have to want to come pay a green fee and have a beverage and a sandwich and practice and do all the things they do at golf facilities. The high quality residential homes that could be added will help pay for all of this. And I'm sure there'll be questions about that, and we can answer those, or not maybe me, but the other experts here can answer those and talk to you about how that's envisioned. We want to make sure in the planning that we create separate access for any new homes so that it doesn't burden the existing neighbors. Find ways to plan this without affecting your HOA fees. So this is all being done independently. It's not like anyone's asking the current residents to pony up money. And then, as Rachel mentioned, bring vibrance to this building and this space, which is something that was very important to the neighbors. And it was not only important to you, but it's important to the ownership group to make sure that when we build a golf facility, that we're also building the clubhouse, place where you can go get a meal or you can get coffee in the morning. You have community events like this room, but even better. So other considerations, we've got the lakes, the trees, the views. We have security questions around the perimeter. We'd like to remove this large maintenance shed here that was built for 36 holes back when this was Bougainvillea, and it's no longer needed to be this big, so we'd like to get rid of that, so when you come in to your community, you're not seeing a big warehouse building. We'd like to create better signage and an arrival, find ways to make this building perhaps even more integrated with your residents and the community, and then ultimately elevate property values. We were insistent in our work that we bring in the National Golf Foundation to help guide us as to what kind of golf course here would be marketable. What would people in the Laveen area, and we go out about 12 miles when we're looking at a urban golf course. So we go about 12 miles, and they provided a study of how many golfers are in that 12-mile radius, how many likely golfers, how many future golfers, and all the other data that comes with it. What kind of golf they might want to play, how willing would they be to play more frequently, and what price point, and really important today, how much time are they willing to invest in a round of golf. So a lot's changing in golf. If you've been to Topgolf, you know that people are looking for different doses and different opportunities to play and practice golf. It's not all done on real grass. It's done, in the Topgolf case, in a setting that's much like a bowling alley, you know, where you go in and you have some chicken wings and some beverages, and you rent a little space with some couches and tables, and you order food and you have fun, you play games. Well, golf is changing. So NGF did a study of comparable competitive golf courses in this area, and then they did an incredible job. It's about a 30-page report that looked at this particular location and what would work here and what would be most viable. Their findings were really that a precision length or short course would have a great market viability. They were very concerned that the number of holes not be reduced to 9, because then you're excluding Rotary clubs and tournaments and groups and outings and things like that. They felt that it was good to have returning loops of holes so that people could play 9 holes if they wanted to, but they play a full 18 holes or 15 or whatever we came up with. And the practice area that was sold off and is no longer owned by Laveen 140, they said, well, try to find ways to get people to be able to practice or to have fun and whatever. So we're going to cover that with hitting bays and entertainment, which is a popular thing. So it's like Topgolf, but it's on a much smaller scale. Not a great big 3-story structure, don't worry about that. And then they felt as well that food and beverage were extremely important, that there be a vibrant clubhouse where people could come after and before a round of golf, and even non-golfers could come and enjoy lunch or dinner. And then programming beyond daylight hours was something that they cautioned us on, knowing it's in a neighborhood, but they said that if the practice area, for instance, could have low night sky lighting, you know, the little practice green out here, that would be fun. People could come here and have dinner and go out with a little glow ball or lights and putt and whatever. So how did we get to the golf course plan that you see on the boards here? Number one, the question was, how do we plan the golf so that existing homes that are on golf now will have golf in the future? Well, setting aside enough land for Laveen 140 to be able to pay for all of this with some appropriate sensitive housing that would add to your neighborhood without it again being up against backyards. So in other words, it would be buffered by the golf and by open space. So we started, and I just put these in here because like I say, we're right now in about 30 of these, but we've worked on a lot of them. And I always think this is a very, very important piece of research from Ralph Brecken down at Vistoso. When we worked down there, the conclusion was that 12 to 18% is the loss of value in a home if you're backing up to a golf hole and all of a sudden you don't have a golf course. And if you're on the interior, it's maybe in the 4 to 6% range. It's still a big number, so you know the value of your home. This is a very, very significant reason that we get involved in these projects. Golf does add value to homes. Most communities that I've worked in do not necessarily like the idea of taking a golf course where you have maintenance people and you know who's come in and use their credit card, you know their names, they're out here playing a game. Most people don't like to trade that for trails that are open to the public where anyone can come, behind houses. Now, I've seen a few places where that's palatable, but it's generally not what people want. And the facts show that that open space with trails doesn't approximate the value that a golf course would bring. So if you can envision here, and I'm just going to go through these quickly, the pink space would be where homes would go, and the big bold line with the arrow would be where the golf would go. And the dotted line would be where we couldn't put golf because we're talking about a smaller golf course. So we went through a lot of iterations. This is one where the west side wouldn't get golf, but they would get open space. And then we flopped it around and said, well, we give the west side golf and the east will get open space. Neither of those seemed right to us. Then we looked at maybe taking the north part of the property and giving it open space. And keep in mind here, when we're talking about a smaller golf course, we're talking about one that's not as long. So we need to use up all that backyard to meet our goal. And it's a significant amount of space. And so these studies were to look at, well, how could we do it? And none of them really worked. And so finally, we looked at this, which was getting a little closer to our goal. But in the end, and this would go down the middle here and take all the golf out of that and put all the golf around the outside. But in the end, what we did is we have this plan that we're sharing with you where we spaced the golf out, and we were very creative with it, especially on the west side where you sort of leapfrog. If you look at these holes up here, and later on I can point them out, but you play hole 1 and then you kind of skirt around one of the other holes and play hole 2, and we were able to configure a really exciting short golf course where everyone that has golf now got golf in the plan, and we were very excited by it. And I think it not only fits the market study that the National Golf Foundation helped us arrive at, but it's a very exciting course. You'll notice on here that there's 20 holes. So we added 2 holes in order to give everyone backyard. And I think we're going to take questions at the end if you don't mind. So we came up with this concept. We call it the score, which is a play on words. So it's score meaning 20. And we also have it designed so that you can combine those holes and play a par 4 if you want to. So the management has some flexibility to play an 18-hole course or a very, very unusual 20-hole par 3 course. Now, some of the details on the golf course. As I said, every home that has golf now would have golf in the future. There's 2 returning loops of either 9 or 10 holes. The optional par 4 holes I mentioned. It fits the NGF market analysis pretty well. You also have these flexible loops so that late in the day you could play, management could send you out to play 5 holes, 7 holes, 10 holes. You have different formats. And we also worked, it seems like a small thing, but we kept most of the homes in the community that have golf now, where the golf is on the hook side or the left side of play. We kept it that way, and we did that for a reason. 84.5% of people will miss a ball to the right rather than the left. So that means that the existing homes are still on the left for the most part, which is very important, I think, if I were living here. And then this maintenance shed, we're getting rid of it and building a new maintenance building under the plan that would be out on 59th Avenue away from homes, using part of the overhead power easement for the yard, so that we felt that was an appropriate place for that. And then we've carved out enough land that with the neighbors' input and with the developers' needs, hopefully you can all arrive at what that magic number might be and what kind of new homes might be appropriate. That's not really my department. My department is to give Rachel and Norris and all of you enough land to be able to pay for all of this and make it work. So this is where we landed, the Score Golf Club at Cotton Fields. I'm going to show you now a few pictures. This is the west side, so you're looking north at what we would call about hole number 2, which is right out here and up a ways. And what we've done is we've taken the retention areas, and we've treated them with one landscape, and then we've taken the areas in between tees and greens, and we've treated them much like the TPC at Scottsdale. So when you see the Phoenix Open, you see that decomposed granite with the desert plants and the palo verdes and the cactus and stuff. So I'll do that again so you can kind of see it. We're kind of leaving the land features as mostly as we can. So the retention basins stay, but we don't want them to be filled with weeds and old mattresses and things. We want them to be beautiful and a part of this is your Central Park. So we want it to be your Central Park. So that's the west side. We also did one of these on the north side, about where hole number 4 would be. So this is today. You have your existing homes over here, and then Southern Avenue off to the right there. And
Are you looking west there?
yeah, looking west, right. So thank you for pointing that out. So this is the before and after of that area. And again, these are, you know, they're approximate, but they're giving you a good idea of the attention to detail that we will make sure gets done on the landscaping and the separation and the buffers. And then finally, right out here, as you're coming back toward the clubhouse, what would be hole number 18, the old hole number 18, and how we envision fixing these lake edges and incorporating the water. I want to mention the water a little bit. The water you have out here was for 36 holes, so it doesn't meet the state guidelines right now. It's too much surface area of water. We can all fight and keep the water, but what we'd like to do is keep this lake and the main lake, the one that's interior to the homes up in the community, but we'd like to make that lake a little bit smaller and have a little bit more area around the edge. And we've received comments, both positive and negative, about that. So that's one thing. If you live up by the North Lake, we'd like to hear from you. And the reason for that is to again, not have as much surface area so that we're in compliance with the future of the state of Arizona for 18 holes. Yes, I'm sorry.
No, I live on the larger hole, and
Okay.
I mean the larger pond, so I wouldn't want people wandering around my home, because obviously...
Right, well, there will be a cart path through there, and the pump station will go away, because that's how we're getting from hole number 3 to 4. And Alex can answer questions about that, but we of course want to do that so that, you know, the trade-off would be that we give you enough buffer and enough space and whatever. That property is, by the way, part of the golf course property. So the lake that you live on, that's all part of the golf course property. This is a blow up of this area. So we have configured that the parking takes up space partially where the maintenance building will be moved from. And then there's a putting green right out here and a long meandering putting course out to the west. And this kind of gives you an idea of the western holes, and I won't spend time with this. This is the back 9, or sort of the coming down through the middle, the card of the course. So we end up with about 3,000 yards, give or take. It'll be USGA rated, and you'll be able to have a handicap if you keep a handicap.
Can you go back one more frame?
Yeah,
Where's the second water hole?
it's on the first 9 from holes 3 to 4.
Okay.
So that's the front 9 or front 10, and then the back 10 there. So these are some pictures of Mountain Shadows. You'll hear us talk a lot about Mountain Shadows because it's an 18-hole par 3 course here in the valley. I think that Levine 140 is organizing some trips over the next month or 2 to go visit Mountain Shadows, and you can see similar property, a different community. Also, I want to mention that Landscapes Unlimited, who built Mountain Shadows and manages it, is part of this team. And that was another important thing for us to bring to Levine 140, is the assurance that this project would be built with a quality group and managed with a quality group. So you can see up here at Mountain Shadows, just the style, it's very similar down here. This isn't just a little, we envision the electric fin cycles being used here, the 4-passenger carts, we call them party carts, where, the mom and dad and the 2 kids will be in the cart, or 2 couples, or 4 ladies, or whatever. They're a lot of fun. A lot of walking will probably happen, and of course, traditional golf carts. On the clubhouse side of things, Brian Curtis has done he's an architectural designer, done a lot of golf work throughout Arizona. If you know the Greyhawk Clubhouse as an example, he worked on that years ago. But this is just a conceptual vision of how this building would be upgraded and treated with a new theme. And we would add a cart storage building on the other end. Not a very big one, that's the building on the left. And then perhaps a fitness center or some other type of amenity right out here on this end. And this is all conceptual. I think that everyone's still looking for input from the neighbors as to what you would like to see this facility become. So this is kind of a south and north view, looking from the golf side at the bottom and looking from the parking lot side on the top. Then we will have some simulator hitting bays right out here that'll be just little 1-story set down in the landscape with roll-up doors, and these will have the ability to be used at night and evening hours to play virtual golf on Pebble Beach or wherever you want to play, and games. And then during the day, they'll be able to be used for warm-up and hitting shots before you go out and play. So that's kind of the brief little view of the clubhouse. On the entry enhancement side, the building I mentioned goes away, and then we're talking about upgrading significantly the arrival to the community. So through landscaping and the size and mass of the entry sign that welcomes you to Cotton Fields, you can kind of see the vision here for that. So in other words, instead of a little 3-foot high just block wall, it's more of a threshold. When I worked for Disney years ago, is one thing that I was always told, that every space needs a threshold. It needs a drawbridge. So this is our drawbridge as you come into the property. I'm going to turn it back over to Alex now. Before I do, again, I'm here to answer questions. We've put a lot of thought into this. My goal is to give you golf and to give you an exciting golf course. Someone asked in a recent meeting, it was, I think, a question, it was one of those gotcha questions. Well, you're just going to do this and then sell it, right? And I was very quick, because that means a lot to me. And I said, absolutely, it will be for sale. When Jeff and I do a project, we want to have a line of people knocking on the door of Levine 140 to say, hey, that golf course you built out there, that's really profitable. I want to buy it. Now, I don't think they want to sell it. That's not their plan. But I can tell you that the right answer is absolutely, when we're done with this golf course, I want it to have a very strong pro forma, to be making money. The cap rate in golf today is about 10 times the profitability of the course. So if the course makes, $400,000 or $500,000 a year, if it does, it's worth $4, $5, $6 million. I want it to be higher. I'm not saying, again, that they're talking about selling the golf course. That's not in their plan. But it was just something I wanted to pass on to you, is that our commitment is to make sure that the golf is marketable and people are going to want to come play it, and it's going to be at the top of people's minds in the valley to come have, what's really going to be a 3-hour experience instead of a 4.5 or 5 hour. So with that, Alex, I'll give it back to you for the tough questions.
Sorry. So, in order to accomplish everything that Forrest just laid out, a portion of this, to ensure financial viability going forward, a portion of the property will need to be redeveloped with new residences. And one of the questions we've heard is, how can you be sure that we won't just get the REMA amended to allow these development of new residences, and then we'll just build the residences or sell the lots and be gone and no golf course. Well, we're committed to commencing that golf redevelopment concurrent with the residential development. And you don't just have to take our word for it. There are mechanisms that we can build in to a amendment that will hold us accountable, put certain timelines or certain thresholds for development so that that does happen concurrently and that the community is getting what it expects. And this community, or the HOA at least, has an attorney, so they'll certainly be able to review any proposed amendment, and we'll be able to come to a conclusion that, or an agreement that everybody understands and has confidence that what you're expecting is what you'll get. And then, as Forrest mentioned, everybody's goal here is for this to be a huge success and for this golf course to be in high demand. So if that's the case, we want to ensure that this community has a good experience with the golf course, and we want to offer what we're calling, for lack of a better term, a legacy membership, which would provide, maybe early access to tee times and reduced greens fees. So we hope that this, golf course continues to be an important part of the community and something that continues to be a source of great enjoyment for everybody. So a little bit more about that legacy membership. This would be for existing homeowners that right for the early tee times or reduced greens fees would run with the land, so it would stay with your parcel. And if it would transfer, it would again just remain with the property. And so lastly, we wanted to kind of highlight some of the residential concepts, and I'll turn it back over to Rachel to walk through kind of what those designs might look like. This is all conceptual, but these are some of the kind of ideas for the residential component.
Yeah, so with the new golf course being developed, of course, it takes money to get there. And so part of that would be bringing in some areas of new development being residential. And so these are very conceptual, almost like a vision board, just a couple of new products around the valley that we've been seeing. So we have some auto court clusters, a variety of 1-story, 2-story, some of them are more of the townhome configuration or duplex. And so really this is just an architectural kind of style board based on what we're seeing around the valley. And now this isn't exactly what would be developed. Of course, any architect that ends up coming to assist in the redevelopment of residential, they'll be working with the community or they'll be looking at your existing architecture and making sure that we come up with a solution that both merges, more of a modern take as well as taking the aspects and the elements of your existing residential designs in all of your homes today. So yeah, this is more of just a vision board, but just to give you kind of an example of what may come in the future.
So how many homes are you planning to build per acre? Like, is it more of a townhome, or like what's the vision?
So right now we actually don't have a number. We don't have any kind of layout or anything really right now. Right now we want to work with the community, and we're focused more on the golf course layout, and then whatever land is remaining, we'll come up with a plan and work with the residents to determine how many residential units the community is willing to accept, and also kind of play a balanced game on how much is needed eventually. But right now we're just not there yet. We're really more focusing on the golf course layout, and the residential will come later, but we'll be working with the community. And when it comes down to the zoning process, when you guys have concerns about what will be developed, you'll have the opportunity to there'll be stuff in the zoning that will stipulate certain architectural features and stuff, and we'll work through that with you guys when that time comes. But right now we're more focused on the golf course layout, and then the land that's remaining, we'll start to plan residential there as well.
And I don't know if it is for you or another person. So what is the today's footprint of the golf course, and what is the future footprint?
What is today's footprint of the golf course, and what would it be in the future?
The golf course that we envision, I believe, is in the 75 yardage, 3,000 yards. The footprint is about 75 acres. And the current golf course, when the range was sold off, the actual open space of the golf course, not the clubhouse and the maintenance and the parking, I want to say is in the 130 range or thereabouts. I can get you those exact numbers, but does that help kind of give it? So it's about, I think we ended up with very close to 60% of the current golf course space being new golf course space.
To the yardage prior, to the yardage now?
I think the old course was just shy of 7,000 yards. It was like 66, 68, something like that.
And the new projection?
3,000, it's all par 3, so it's 20 holes par 3. 3,000. Yeah, and again, the flexible holes, so it can be 18 holes par 56, or it can be 20 holes times 3 par 60.
So basically it went down to half?
The
yardage?
Correct, yes. Yeah, the Mountain Shadows, as an example, is an 18-hole golf course. If you go on those tours, that is 13 and a half acres of turf on 33 acres of land, 18 holes. 20 holes here at about 70 some acres. Yes?
So a very long-term and dear resident here has referred to this plan as a putt-putt course. How would you respond to that?
No. It's a par 3 course, which is a very, very popular trend right now. We're seeing an awful lot of investment around the world from private clubs, municipalities, HOAs, resort courses. Jeff and I are involved in many, many, many short course projects. Mountain Shadows, I give you an example, cracked the $100 mark for a round of golf on an 18-hole golf course last year. And the previous mark in Phoenix, which also happened in Phoenix, was when Troon North, which is a famous course up in Scottsdale, was built as kind of a country club for the day, kind of a, public course, but you come and you're treated really nice. They cracked the $100 green fee for an 18-hole public course about 20 years ago. So 2 firsts in Arizona. Just a few months ago, the green fee at Mountain Shadows was hovering on Golf Now at about 180. Now, we don't see that green fee here. That's not what we're expecting, but it's still going to compare favorably. I gave a talk at the Innovation Symposium of the United States Golf Association. It happened to be in Tokyo a few years ago, and it would be a really interesting thing for those of you, you're talking about yardage. It was cost per yard versus revenue per yard. And it's a very interesting dynamic. So I can tell you at Mountain Shadows, yes, the cost per yard is kind of high, cost to take care of the facility. But boy, the revenue per yard is off the charts in favor of the people that own the golf course. Today, golfers are looking for, we're time urgent as a society today. So new generations, yes, they'll still go out and play golf 4 hours, 5 hours. They'll do buddy trips to Bandon Dunes or Pinehurst or Pebble Beach. But the core golfing new generation is looking for shorter opportunities to play the game. So this fits right into the hand of the next generation of golf. Again, it's not to say that the 18-hole 6,800 yard golf is going away. It's still here. But we can tell you statistically that there are more 9-hole rounds being played in the United States than at any time in the history of the game of golf since we've kept records. Why is that, do we suppose? Well, again, it's time urgent. People are saying, well, I have time to go out to a couple hours to play the game, but I'm not going to invest 4 hours today. I have other things. I have family. I have social media. I've got other, things to do. So, should we take it over here and we give questions to the others?
My golf game's like 6 hours, but that's because I have to have so many mulligans. So I definitely would appreciate a shorter course. I presented with you guys in the very beginning, and we appreciate the attention given this, because without your feedback, I don't think we would have arrived at this point right here today. This is a very long process. It involves 2 things: amending the REMA and a zone change. I don't even want to consider what a zone change would look like, because if I can't get past the REMA with your assistance, it's immature, or excuse me, it's too early, premature, probably a better word to describe it, to even consider the zoning. But in a perfect world, how I hope this will come to a solution is that when we come back to you next time, hopefully potentially in June, we'll actually be able to have a little bit more definition on the residential product to answer some of your questions. Where those might be, how they might be designed, the roadways, the lotting, the setbacks, and all those kind of things. And you can kind of see those two plans blend together. But frankly, I did not want to rush ahead and create a residential product if I didn't feel like we were arriving in a good spot with this plan here. One thing that I think I want to repeat that Forrest said is if you live near like some of these spots right here, for example, we would like to have small group meetings with the folks that live kind of around some of those lakes. That includes you and some others. So come up afterwards and maybe just give your name, particularly to Forrest, because he's going to try to set up just a couple walking tours with you guys. The thing is, we need to kind of pin down some of those things before we can really start figuring out what our residential envelope looks like. Something else Forrest mentioned is a tour of another facility. He mentioned Mountain Shadows, where it was a larger course that was reduced down in size and had homes introduced to it. We're trying to find a potential couple of dates where we can rent like a little charter bus or mini bus here that can take us up there to kind of walk it, tour it, maybe have a bite to eat while you're there and experience what that's like. So you can kind of get a vision on how did a big course come down to a more moderate sized course and work with the homes around there. So we don't have dates yet. We're trying to figure out what those might look like, but we will send out an email out to everybody, or letters more probably specifically, so that way we can figure out who would be interested in attending, so we can coordinate the proper vehicles to transport us as needed. So big picture here. So how does this process work? Alex mentioned previously that for us to do this plan, it requires amending the REMA. And that requires 2/3 of the owners of this community to support that plan. And so I suspect that we're going to have to do a number of these meetings before we arrive on a plan that is worth taking to you guys for your consideration. If we can land in a spot that is a plan that can be supported, then we'll essentially begin what that process might look like to collect the required number of signatures. But it would just be really early for us to really start that process off until we find a little bit more consensus regarding the land plan. All I have right now is a golf course plan. So hopefully in June, we'll be able to come back and probably do another couple of meetings like this to see how those two plans start to merge together. And then I suspect that after we kind of arrive on what a plan would be, then we need to talk about what are the deal points. And things like the timing of the golf course development, the timing of the homes, the phasing of these things, and certain assurances and conditions that need to be built into this, because I think, as I've heard in a couple of different meetings, being burned in the past by other golf course owners or developers or even board members, we want to make sure that we build in the right mechanism, so that way you have those assurances baked into a REMA. So certain steps can't happen without certain accommodations being committed to first. And I don't know what that looks like. In my mind, I have a couple of ideas, but for the most part, I'd rather figure out what I've got to work with on my land plan, and then probably do meetings throughout June and July, kind of figuring out what is a framework. And once we kind of have an idea of what a framework might look like, then I think we'll feel comfortable talking to the broader community for consideration of the amendment.